We will now begin the city council meeting. And welcome to the City of Lemon Grove's regular city council meeting. To those who are back again, we're happy to see you, and for those who are new, we're glad that you have joined us. I would like to remind everyone to please silence your cell phones. Thank you. City Clerk, will you please call the roll of the city council members to go on the record as in attendance?
Councilmember LeBaron.
Councilmember LeBaron here. Welcome to everybody.
Councilmember Garcia. Here. Councilmember Snow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Here.
Mayor Vasquez.
Here.
We have a quorum for the city council.
Thank you so very much. I'd like to ask Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza to lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, there are no changes to tonight's agenda.
Thank you so very much. Tonight, we have a proclamation, and it's proclaiming June 12th, 2024 as San Diego County Fair Day in the city of Lemon Grove. And so, I do have the proclamation here. And before I get to the proclamation, what I'd like to do is call Tristan Allman, Chief Communications Officer, to do a presentation.
Okay, I'll bend down a little bit, just to make sure. I'll be a little hunched over. Ready to take it off? Okay, great. Feel like I'm gonna or something. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you for proclamation, Mayor, City Council. I really appreciate it. I was here last year. I don't know if you remember. I showed up late. It was a whole thing. We had a PowerPoint presentation. Doing it a little differently this year. Starting with showed up on time at the beginning of the meeting. So thank you so much for this honor. I was just talking with Councilmember Snow about the fair, and she was mentioning her favorite part is seeing the animals and the atmosphere. Everyone I talk to has a different part of the fair that they like, and really what it comes down to is that the fair is it's a reflection of the community that we serve. Lemon Grove is an important part of that community. In fact, and I don't know if they've been handed out yet, but the posters and buttons that we have for you that with our theme this year, Let's Go Retro, that was actually designed, that logo that you see, designed by a man named James Coleman, who grew up right here in Lemon. So you have that, you'll see that logo everywhere this year. We're going to have it on community banners. We're going to have it on billboards. And we really appreciate people of Lemon Grove, the city of Lemon Grove, being part of this tradition that dates back all the way to 1880. We are up in Del Mar, but we've been all over, throughout the organization's history. We hope to see all of you there. Mayor, I believe, did you come out to the fair last year? I seem to remember you saying that you wanted to see the Kevin Hart show. Were you able to make it?
I did, and it was wonderful. I actually attend both since I've been a local every single year.
That's great, and we hope to see you again this year. We have a full slate of acts. We've got the Kings of Late Night Comedy are going to be there. We've got Ludacris and TLC, and we've got some country acts, Old Dominion, Little Big Town, Whiskey Myers. It's going to be a great year for us, and we look forward to having everyone hopefully all of you come out and see it. So, with that, happy to take questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so very much. I will check with our elected leaders to see if they have questions, but I also want to say something that's very different this year was that I was able to be part of a select group of elected leaders to provide input regarding the 5-year master plan. So just kind of wanted to let you know that, and, you know, I appreciate the opportunity to be a voice of our community as it relates to the fairgrounds and what the future looks like. So I'll check to see if anyone has questions. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Most years we host students from other countries at our home through Lions Clubs International. And last year we had a young girl from Poland, and we took her to the fair. And she said she was 16. She said she'd never seen anything like it before in her life. What she was most amazed at was the food, how much food there was there. And but anyway, it was really, I've enjoyed going to the fair my whole life that I've lived here in the county. But it was really fun to bring someone who just never experienced anything like that.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Snow.
One of the things that we talked about when we were meeting earlier is, as a mom, it can be kind of expensive. So do they have any specials or programs for kids?
That's correct. So I believe it's under 6 kids are free. Under 5 and under. 5 and under, right? Okay. 5 and under kids are free every day. On Fridays specifically, kids 12 and younger are free. So no cost of admission. Of course, we have all kinds of deals. Albertsons bonds. There's a code that we can get there to save $3. We have a lot of promotions like that to help you save money. So that it's not so burdensome on families. One of our key tenets is trying to maintain, you know, obviously we're a self-funding entity, so we have to be able to produce revenue that allows us to put on the fair, but we do strive to make the fair, because it represents our county and our communities, as affordable and accessible as possible. Thank you.
And I'll add to that, I believe that there may be some discounts regarding those who serve in the military. So if you could provide a little bit of information about that. You know, we
Yes.
are a huge military town. In fact, my husband served 24 years in the United States Army, so you put that out there.
And actually, you know, my grandfather, who I never met, and my father grew up in Norman Grove, but my grandfather came to San Diego because he was in the military as well. But we do have a deal called, it's a partnership with GovX. So that's all available on our website, but that is for military personnel, so they're able to get a discount on admission as well.
Thank you so very much. And now the best part is the proclamation. And often I'll click through, maybe read one whereas, but there's some really great information here, and maybe some information that most people don't know regarding the tie of Lemon Grove to the fair. And so I'm kind of going to go through a few of these whereases, and one, I'll start right here. It says, whereas the San Diego County Fair provides opportunities for Lemon Grove small business, farmers, landscapers, gardeners, artists, crafters, woodworkers, photographers, collectors, and others to showcase their wares and talents. The fair helps to promote San Diego County and brings area business, families, neighbors, and diverse communities closer together in a festive atmosphere. Lemon Grove entrepreneur Jackie Horton Toth is among those who have found success as a vendor at the fair. I didn't know that. The San Diego County Fair forms key partnerships with groups such as nonprofits, schools, sponsors, and youth development organizations who make the annual festivities more equitable, more educational, more accessible, and more exciting for young people. Student showcase, best of K through 6, and junior livestock shows, plants, grows, eats, fair for all, kids days, and Care and Share Toy Drive are some of the programs that are a result of the greater partnerships between the San Diego County Fair and the San Diego County community. And the city of Lemon Grove is a key community partner of the San Diego County Fair and participates in the fair's annual Community Street Banner program, which highlights dozens of community residents to promote the fair. And so those are the banners that you can see through our downtown corridor and along Broadway. Lemon Grove residents are able to visit the fair using the city's buses, train stations, and thanks to the fair trip, a combination of fair San Diego Metropolitan Transit System and North County Transit District tickets, the free shuttle service from Solona Beach Station, and the 2024 San Diego County Fair runs from June 12th through July 7th, except for Mondays and Tuesdays, providing 20 days of fun, family, food, adventure, entertainment, education opportunities for residents of Lemon Grove and other San Diego County communities. The 2024 San Diego County Fair theme is Let's Go Retro, focusing on the era of the 50s through the 1990s, a period of time that saw Lemon Grove grow from a sparsely populated rural town to a vibrant community. And so it has now therefore let it be resolved that we declare June 12th, 2024 as San Diego County Fair Day in the city of Lemon Grove. But I say, Lemon Grove, let's go retro. And I encourage you to wear your lemon yellow when you go.
Thank you very much. Yes, wear it and we'll, I'll make sure to say hi to all of you.
Yes, thank you so very, very much. I do want to present this to you, and I'll ask the other elected officials to come down with me, take a photo.
All of you are invited to the fair. We have one more presentation, and it is Public Works Week. And so I will turn this over to Izzy Murguia, and then after he says a few words, then I will read the proclamation.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and our esteemed residents. I'm happy to announce that this year marks the 64th annual year that the American Public Works Association will be celebrating National Public Works Week. This year, Public Works Week will take place on May 19th through the 25th. And this year's theme is Advancing Quality of Life for All. This week is meant to highlight the importance of public works to residents' daily lives in planning, building, managing, and operating at the heart of their local communities to improve everyday quality of life issues to their residents. It's a pleasure to work alongside with our public works team, the men and women of our department. We are a very small but mighty force, and really kudos goes out to them. That really they do a bulk of the work every day. They're the ones out in the streets filling potholes, cleaning sewer lines, inspecting private projects. And so, as I mentioned, we have a really small crew and they do a lot. And I'm really proud of the team that we have built. As you know, we have been going through some transitional issues, but we're in the process of putting together a strong and solid team. And I know some of our members are here this evening. And so I just wanted to recognize the employees of Lemon Grove Public Works, and we look forward to celebrating them here in a couple weeks for all their hard work. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you so very much. And what I will do is I'll go ahead and read this into our record. It's the proclamation, and advancing quality of life for all, as you mentioned, is the theme, and to celebrate National Public Works Week. And it states, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital and important to sustainable and the resilience of our communities, and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of those who live in the city of Lemon Grove. Whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedication and the efforts of public works professionals, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, as well as our public works, yard, our buildings, and other infrastructure and facilities that are essential to what we consider community. Whereas it is the public's interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Lemon Grove to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest in understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas this year, 2024, marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now it be resolved, I, Rico Vasquez, does hereby designate the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week, and I proudly urge my fellow residents of Lemon Grove to congratulate the Public Works Department for their substantial contributions to the city of Lemon Grove in protecting our health, safety, and advancing quality of life. I will say, when it comes to public works on all levels, it's everything. We would not have our cities, we would not have our transportation infrastructure that's in place, and all the things that connect us together if it were not for those who work in public works. So, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to you and all that you do. It's so very important, and it's so very vital to who we are as a community, but also who we can be in the future. You may ask the question, why? And it's because you build, you maintain, you fix, you repair, and you pitch in whenever you can to make sure that all of us here, not just the people, but our business community, can experience some kind of quality of life. And so, you know, yes, I know the crew is small, but I want to let you know that I appreciate you and all that you do. I'll check in with our council members to see if they have anything to say. I'll check first with Councilmember LeBaron. I think I saw your hand go up.
I want to say thank you to our public works guys. You guys put in a lot of effort around town. Everything you guys do is really, really appreciated. And, just know that from the dais, there's things that we can do as council members to show that we appreciate you guys. And know that right now you guys are like in negotiation talks with your union leader and some closed session. And just know that what weighs on my heart is just thinking of you guys and how we can support you guys better. So when we go behind doors, those are conversations that are being had that are in support of you guys.
Council members, no?
Just want to echo the same sentiments that I'm grateful that for the thing, for quality of life here in Monroe, really depends on. There was a huge effort this week to be building pretty consistently to make sure our streets are clean, that it's a safety issue and what works in the front line right there. So we really appreciate that, but we understand our position as council to make sure that we keep ensure appreciation in all of this.
Councilmember Gasso?
I think Councilmember Snow said it, we said we want to keep our good people here. Because public works people work so hard for the city and do so much for us. And we're also really fortunate to have Izzy, as our director, because you've been so fearless. And I think that I think that really who should be in the, if you would make sure, I think it should be the public works director and the workers. The workers should be in the picture. I just vote for the stuff, but they do hard work, and I think that this is a great.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Roofing?
I wanted to thank you guys for giving me a tour of the public works yard last year. And I've never really been over there before except to deliver candy at the holidays or something. But it was really interesting to see the machinery that you have and how much pride you take in the work that you do and the how you keep up the public works yard. And it was also very enlightening to know how old some of our equipment is, and we need to keep that on our radar as well. So anyway, thanks for all you do with the little that you have to keep us safe in Lemon Grove. From my heart, I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so very much. And I will, restate that we know the value that you bring here. And, I encourage and implore our residents and our business owners to recognize that value as well. Out there, I know that it's a tough job. There are so many responsibilities in keeping with the upkeep of the city, but you do just that. You maximize your resources to get it done, but also to pitch in when we are ready to celebrate who we are, which is with our annual bonfire. And I want to recognize the work that you do to make sure that all residents that come from near and far, and even those who don't live in the city, can have a really good time in December when we light the fire. So again, thank you. I do have a proclamation. I'm going to step down and invite the public works guys up. if, those here at the platform would like to join in for a photo, you can join as well.
You want to take this one?
On to our general public comment portion of the meeting. During the general public comment portion of this meeting, the public may express their concerns not pertaining to items on the agenda tonight. Please note that in according to state law, the city council is not permitted to respond to any comments expressed by the public. If appropriate, staff will be directed to follow up with the speaker, or the topic may be brought back to a city council meeting for consideration at a future date. Per Lemon Grove Municipal Code, Chapter 2.150, all remarks must be addressed to the city council as a body and not to any individual council member. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes. When speaking, please observe the green, yellow, and red light timer at the podium. The red light indicates that it is time for the next speaker to approach the podium to begin speaking. Do we have any speakers, please? Our first speaker is Brenda Hammond, followed by John Elwood.
We'll do it like this. Can you hear me? Okay. Anger is a normal human reaction to harassment, especially when it's intentional to record reaction. You've heard my reaction. So that's what you'll get from me. Some of you need to back off, especially some county. I know about the emotional research program, and a lot of you don't know about it. I know about it because it was started by some of my family. The part that makes me angry is when emotional people are created for the study. You don't get to do that with me or with anybody else out there. It's harassment. So here's the fun part. So I had Ethiopian food for the first time at the farmer's market. It was delicious. I never had it before. Nikki Joyce. And I want to say Public Works, they're awesome. Izzy gets stuff from me all the time. I mean, all you have to do is ask. People out there complain about Public Works. Just ask. And, you know, you'll get an answer. They're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Next, we have John Elwood, followed by Dan Garnaby.
John Elwood.
Don't let it get to you.
First, on the 23rd of April, there was the 7-car.
If you could move the mic closer to your microphone.
Hello. On the 23rd of April, 7 cars were involved in a collision on Federal Boulevard in front of Miller's main entrance. Miller has cut the weeds on the vacant lot. It also cut some of the palm fronds at the east end of the creek, which what's up to 6894 Federal. Cutting the fronds off of palm trees doesn't do any good at all. They have to pull them out, the whole tree. They're only about 5 feet high. There's water going through that creek all the time. They have to pull them out, and you can't have heavy equipment in that creek. They have to do it from the banks. I don't know if any of you know that, and I know definitely Miller doesn't know about it. And it has to be taken care of. Not yesterday. How about 40 years ago? It should have been done. But no, you just throw your thumbs and say, oh, we're not going to enforce any of that code that says that you have to do things like remove palm trees from the creek. Another thing I'd like to know is who are the people on the Mesa Blast property? They have a trailer, they've got 2 cars, they've got a motorcycle, they've got a bicycle, and they've gone and got some of this orange fencing and put it up so nobody else can get in. Those plastic fencing, so it's no problem getting in. All you gotta do is have a pair of scissors, no problem. But if somebody can find out and let me know who the people are that are staying, camping, homeless, whatever they are. Because we're trying to get rid of some of the homeless. You did it on Pacific last weekend, which was nice because it looked like all the time. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Next we have Dan Dannery, followed by Sam Landless.
I'm Dan Benary, longtime Lemon Grove City resident. I was here last time to talk about the homeless encampment on Pacific, and I want to thank each and every one of you that potentially had anything to do with the cleanup. I want to thank Izzy and your crews. I believe they were responsible for actually facilitating doing the cleanup. I hope we're moving on to North Avenue to clean up that area. I'd like to urge each and every one of you to be more proactive in this type of cleanups, because with my history at environmental services in the city of San Diego, I know that longer an encampment is allowed to go on, it's just absolutely gross cleanup that has to go on there. And if we mitigate these things sooner, our crews won't be exposed to the health hazards that exist in those things on a daily basis. But I would like to thank anybody and everybody for cleaning the one up on Pacific. It looks way better. And I'd also like to ask that maybe these guys can look at Central Avenue between Federal and Massachusetts. That road is just beats the heck out of your cars. And that's a main artery. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so very, thank you so very much. And the general public comment portion of the agenda is now closed. I think we have one more speaker slip, and that is Sam Landros. And then I'll have staff provide any comments, if comments are available regarding the concerns that were shared here tonight.
Good evening, I am Sam Landeros, a member of the local 127 Supervisor Bargaining Unit here at Lemon Grove. It's important to understand this concept of a pool or union bank of hours for a steward is untested here at Lemon Grove and a dangerous pathway. I I will explain. The steward hours are not for walking the so-called hallways, but for responding to actual legally covered issues. It is limited to representation legally required work. The issues required are for 1, meet the comfort, 2, grievances over the MOU, 3, wage loss hearing, 4, discipline of staff, 5, medical accommodations, 6, and more all required under the law called fair duty of representation. This simply means that the union must provide basic representation in all areas under the law for everyone equally and without favoritism. Member or not member, we don't choose who we represent, but the law demands it. While we can decide sometimes on arbitration or mediation, but not the basic areas. We replace our union into legal liability with a full/paying concept. If there is concern about stewards wasting time, then let us spell out the work in the MOU rather than place arbitrary time limits. Steward work hours are impacted from the city direction most times and not the union. 1, when the city disciplines staff. 2, when the city investigates staff. 3, when the city has a side letter. 4, when the city has a meet and conflict. 5, when the city fires staff. 6, when the city violates the MOU. There are examples of the city initiated steward work and not the steward initiated. When the hours run out, then can we expect the city not to do any of these items? Or does the city expect employees or the union not to take their legal representations? Again, we can place the city and the union in legal jeopardy. Also, we have read about the concept in other states, but it was pushed by anti-union organizations to undercut union to present representation, forcing drop in membership, and lead to decertification. So the union is asking to keep the current process of paid work time for steward work as it is then full and complete. Please direct the city manager to allow the normal paid work time and reject the concept of the full regular hours.
Thank you so very much. We will now move on to the consent calendar. Once staff responds, if there are any responses to some of the concerns that were shared during public comment.
Mr. Woods, I'll call you tomorrow about Mesa Glass.
Thank you so very much. Moving on to our consent calendar, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Councilmember LeBaron?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask that we pull 9th Amendment of Agreement for Administration of Taxi Cab and other for hire vehicle regulations with San Diego MTS.
Agenda item 1G.
Okay, so we have a second to pull item 1G. So with that pulled, the remainder of the consent calendar, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor.
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a second as well. I'll ask our city clerk to call the roll.
Madam Mayor, before I call the roll call, item 1G is supported by Councilmember Valerian, and the second by the supported member. Thank you. So the motion on the thank you. So the motion on the floor was made by Councilmember Valerian with a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. Roll call vote. Councilmember Valerian.
Councilmember LeBaron, aye.
Councilmember Snow.
Aye.
Councilmember Garcia. Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye.
Mayor Vasquez.
Aye.
Motion carries on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you so very much. And so we will hear item 1G after the remaining items that are on the agenda. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the award of contract number 2024-03 to A. Preman Roofing Incorporated for the citywide roof replacement project. I'll turn this over to Izzy Murguia, who is our Public Works Director, to present the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is a recommendation to approve contract number 2024-03 to Preman Roofing Incorporated for the citywide roof replacement project. Next slide, please. So way of background, the FY 2023-24 capital improvement program includes $994,900 for roof replacement citywide. On December 19th, 2023, the City Council approved a contract with the Garland Company Incorporated for the purchase of roofing construction material in preparation of the roof construction bid. The methodology that the city is pursuing in this replacement project is a hybrid type of approach where we as the owner purchase the material directly from the manufacturer and bid out the labor component of the construction to avoid any markup on material. This project, it's notable to note that this project is funded with American Rescue Plan Act funds, which the City Council approved as part of the current year's budget process. This next slide will get you familiar with the overview of this project. Again, this roof replacement project consists of 4 buildings, the first one being the community center, this building that we're in. It entails a complete removal and replacement. The roof age of this facility is over 30 years old, and it's showing it severe distress, membrane distress, and so it's reached its useful life, and so this project will consist of an applied membrane roofing material. Our next facility is the fire station. The fire station has, there's 3, components that to the fire station. You can see down in the bottom right, there is a building circled in blue, and then a building circled in red and orange. These sections that are in red and orange, so essentially the administration side of the fire station, the bay, the roofing over the bay areas, and the living quarters. Those sections of the roofs will be completely replaced as well. Again, this facility's roof is over 30 years old and is seeing severe deterioration with the membrane, failed pipe penetration, splits in the flashing, and this facility is consistently experiencing roof leaks, so it'll be a good added addition to have this roof replaced for the fire department. Next slide, please. Continuing on, this project will also include removing and replacing asphalt shingles for the City Hall section of this building, and a mineral applied roofing for the sheriff's substation, which is noted on the left-hand side. And as you know, the sheriff's substation side of the facility experienced significant breaches during the January 22nd storm, and it currently need a roof replacement, and so this will address both sections of the facility. Lastly, the Lee House is also being proposed to have roof repairs as opposed to roof replacements. The shingles on the facility are for the most part in good condition. There are several areas throughout the Lee House where the wood shingles are in disrepair, and so the bid specifications includes or calls out for replacements of those areas, replacement of the ridge cap, essentially the pinnacle of the roof, along with gutter replacements for the Lee house. Due to the steepness of the Lee house, it essentially has extended the useful life of the roof as water just sheets off as opposed to settling on the material. But with the input of the Historical Society, staff is recommending that we do the repairs as opposed to the replacement to keep the historical aesthetic of the facility. Next slide, please. This slide here summarizes our bid schedule timeline. As you know, we had to advertise the project twice. Initially, we bid this project in February 16th. Bids were due on March 19th. Shortly thereafter, staff rejected all the bids. There's 3 bids that were submitted due to non-responsiveness. They were non-substantive in nature, but nevertheless in accordance with our purchasing guidelines and procedures, we had to reject the bids and re-advertise. The re-advertise was issued on March 29th. We had a job walk on April 9th, which was attended by 5 contractors, a lot of the contractors from the initial job walk. On April 18th, we closed the bids and we received 1 responsive bidder. And so as part of this item, next slide please, we're recommending an award to Preman Roofing Incorporated for a total sum of $617,438. The base bid for this project was $583,803. We had a bid alternate item, which is essentially an option, and that option specifically related to the City Hall and substation portion of the facility. This mostly was on the sheriff's substation part, but there is a section of the roofing which is a flat mineral applied roofing, which we had 2 options. One was a restoration versus a full replacement, so taking off the full mineral material down to the decking in and around where the HVAC units are currently located, versus just repairing and patching the mineral applied roofing. And so for long-term purposes and for essentially peace of mind, we are recommending that we go with the full replacement of that section of the roof. And so that's the $33,635. And in total, that $617,438 is the total sum of the project, or I'm sorry, the total sum of the contract. Next slide, please. This slide here represents the project budget, and what I'll do here is walk through with you line by line. This item, this item has a recommendation for an appropriation request, and so I'd like to walk you through that. So to begin with, the construction contract that we're recommending this evening is for $617,438. We are including a 5% contingency on the project, which amounts to $30,871. The contingency will cover pretty much anything beyond 5% of damaged roof decking. So when the contractor take, for example, this facility, when they come here and they rip everything off, not the underlayment, but the baseline material would be plywood, and if any of that plywood is damaged beyond repair, and exceeds 5%, the city would be liable for replacing anything beyond that. Anything within 5%, the contractor is responsible for. And then, of course, any unknowns. When you start opening things up, you never know what you find. Roofing materials. So as I mentioned earlier, the City Council approved a materials contract late last year to the Garland Company in the amount of $467,075. We are currently in receipt of that construction material. Actually, it's approximately 67 pallets that we have stored at our yard, taking up a lot of space in our warehouse. And so we're looking forward to getting this project started so the contractor can move product. Then we have inspection services. Again, this is to ensure that the building permit is being followed. In-house, we don't have the expertise to oversee the nature of this project, so we have to contract out those inspection services. In total, you get a total sum of $1,122,385.36. As I mentioned earlier, the budget that was allocated as part of the current year's CIP is $994,900. Staff is requesting an appropriation of $127,485, which is essentially the delta between the total amount and the amount that's allocated in the CIP to allow staff to move forward and cover the overall remainder of the project costs, inspection services, and contingency. I do want to note that in the staff report, I did make an error that the appropriation request was for $128,485, and I essentially transposed a number, and so the correct amount, the appropriation request is $127,485. And we're requesting that these appropriation come from unallocated American Rescue Plan Act funds, which there is sufficient funding for. Next slide, please. In sum, staff's recommendation is authorizing an appropriation totaling $127,485 from unallocated American Rescue Plan Act funds, awarding a contract for the citywide roof replacement project to Preman Roofing in the amount of $617,438, and authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so very much. Before we get to our questions, I'll check with our city clerk to see if we have any speaker slips regarding this particular item.
Madam Mayor, I have no speaker slips for this item.
Thank you so very much. We will begin with our first round of questions. Our council members will be allowed to ask 2 questions, and we will do a second round of questions where the council members will be able to ask 2 questions and provide comments. And so I'll start with council member Snow.
Thank you, Izzy, for the presentation. I really appreciate that. And I wanted to kind of highlight some important points on this. I know that we're asking for an appropriation here of additional money than we had originally estimated and allocated in our original budget. But I wanted to really focus on some of the cost-saving measures that we implemented in order to be able to keep these costs as low as possible. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight was on December 19th, 2023, we met here together and approved a materials contract. And one of the reasons that we did that is because, well, Izzy, can you tell us why we decided and what was the purpose behind getting an approval back in 2023 rather than waiting now in 2024 to get those materials?
Yes, so in essence, we would be essentially we were saving 10% on the overall cost of roofing material. So, you'd be saving in excess of 40 grand due to planned markups that the manufacturer had already planned. And so, by approving a contract in 2023, we locked in those prices, that pricing, and we're able to save those funds.
Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention and helping us save nearly $47,000 on this project. And then another cost savings component to this was us buying the materials instead of contractor purchasing the materials. Can you explain a little bit about what happens if the contractor buys the materials and if you can put a price tag on what it might cost us if we did it for the contractor to do that?
Yeah, so the contractor would have been limited to a 15% markup per Green Book standards. And so whatever the cost, well, assumingly the cost of the material, 15% on top of that. Also, by purchasing the material, the city has more control on the requirements on what was being installed on the facilities, as opposed to something like for like. The approach, as I mentioned earlier, was a little different. Staff could have handled this project a little different, where we could have bid out or specified the material down to what type of flashing we're going to use. Again, we don't have the expertise in-house to do that, and so we partnered with the Garland Company, which is a roofing manufacturer, and with that partnership, we get a construction manager and the bid documents provided for us. So therein itself is about, if we had an engineer do it, our city engineer would probably bid anywhere in the ballpark of 15 to 20,000 for developing those specifications. So that's why we decided to purchase the materials directly.
All right. Thank you so much for that. According to my calculations, that means we saved about $137,500 from doing it this way, which is what we set aside for the appropriations. So instead of coming to us with a $300,000 ask, you're coming to us with $127,000. So the dedication to keeping costs low and paying attention to every dollar that we're spending here is very much appreciated.
Councilmember LeBaron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure, or actually, let's have the appropriate staff member answer this question. It's regarding point number 3 on the recommendation. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution. 1, authorizing an appropriation totaling $127,000 and more. 2, awarding a contract to a roofing company. And 3, authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents. What does that mean, point number 3? Like, what does that specifically mean when we're voting to authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents on large ticket items or large ticket projects like this?
Yeah, so this essentially means the contract. So having the city manager sign the contract, and any examples of other documents would be, for example, a change order.
What's the change order?
Change order would be if the contractor, again, the example that I gave before, so a of the decking. If a decking on a roof needed to be replaced in its entirety as opposed to 5%, and that cost was, I'm just throwing numbers here, $100,000. Or I'm sorry, let me go less than, say that the change order is $10,000. The city manager can sign that change order authorizing that repair to move forward. Staff has a practice that any change order in excess of 10%, we bring back to the council for approval. So any change order in excess of $60+ thousand, we would bring back for city council's consideration.
Okay, so authorizing the city manager to execute any necessary documents means that she's being responsible over her proper documentation of how funds are being spent on this project. That'd be accurate to say.
The proper documentation would fall with me in managing the project. And my recommendation would then go to the city manager that she approve a change order request, for whatever reason, not whatever reason, but a change order request because it's deemed necessary.
I would add to what Mr. McGurty just said, is that change orders are one thing. That's just an example. There are a multitude of other documents that may require signature by the city manager, including performance bonds. Performance bonds are often required in contracts to secure the work and performance of the contractor. And that's something the contractor promises to secure the work that's done. So it does require an acknowledgement and acceptance of the city, and that's another example of something the city manager would have to sign. So not necessarily something that obligates the city to pay, but something that obligates the contractor to perform, for example.
Thank you so very much. Next, we have Councilman Gaston.
I don't have any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
I just had a question. So when you initially advertised for bids, so you got 3 of them, but they were rejected as non-responsive. And one of those was from this company. And of those 3 bids, they submitted the lowest. I just want to that they submitted the lowest bid, even though it was non-responsive. What does it mean to be non-responsive?
It can mean multiple things, but for example, not signing a document or a form that was required as part of the bid documents could be considered deemed non-responsive, or if they submitted after the deadline.
So then you just told these companies, this is why we're not accepting your bid, and then we gave this company an opportunity to submit correct.
Without going into detail, the non-responsiveness was a result to a form not being submitted and signed by a multitude or multiple contractors.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to solidify where the funding is coming from. I heard ARPA funds specifically for this project, and it's noted on one of the slides as well. And the funds that you're asking for tonight, those are ARPA funds. If you could please confirm that this is all federal money that was provided to us, and that is, if it is impacting our general fund, in the amount of how much.
So this project's all federal money, and the general fund portion of this project is $0.
Thank you for confirming that. I'll do the second round of questions, and you can also provide your comments, and if you feel, and so you're ready to make a motion, you can do that as well. I'll start with Councilmember Smith.
Don't really have any other additional questions. I just wanted to make a comment on this. This is a major achievement for us. This is some serious capital improvements that were long overdue. We've sat in city council sessions where the roof is leaking on us while we're sitting in session. And we really need to keep this up. So these were one-time funds. It's a good example of what we can do if we increase our revenues in the city, make sure that we maintain our properties so that we can enjoy them and enjoy the use, and that the community can use them in a safe and healthy way. So I'm really proud of the city. This was a big topic in our budget discussions, and we're gonna have our new budget discussions coming up in the next few weeks. It's really important for the community to be there. These are the kinds of projects we can get across the finish line with this type of revenue. The ARPA funds brought in this last year of funding was about 3.5 million to about 4 million. And we are able to do some really serious projects in town that have needed work for a long time. But when we have streets with potholes and storm drains collapsing, absent for this type of revenue, we wouldn't be able to get this stuff done. So I'm glad that we're getting this done. It's getting done in a timely manner. And I'm glad that we are being very careful with our dollars. We're not taking them for granted. And we were able to save over $137,000 because there was a lot of thought that went into getting these bids, maximizing the dollars, and making sure we got the most for our buck in this. So I'm really excited to be able to meet in buildings that don't have leaks, and I appreciate the work that went into making sure we got good bids.
Councilmember Barron. Madam Mayor, this is the last round of questions with the opportunity to give comment, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. This question's for staff, probably the city manager. What other things could have ARPA funds been used for?
You recall from the discussion, ARPA was a very small bucket of items. Infrastructure was one, economic development was another, which we did the DR program, infrastructure, which we're doing roofs and streets and storm drains, and then the last bucket was, and I apologize, I'm doing this from memory, the last bucket was medical supplies, COVID supplies, which we didn't need any because we depended on the county health department to give us everything that we needed for those supplies. And then the last.
Was it something to do with homelessness?
Yes, homelessness, excuse me. We could use this for one-time homeless money. But it has to be infrastructure, not services. So we couldn't contract with a service provider. We would have to build or help build some type of facility.
Thank you. So, there was, I know you just went over some large bullet points of what we kind of used ARPA funds for. I do remember that it was a little bit, the language of it was pretty loose, and it was something that the city could have interpreted in many ways. We could have used ARPA funds for things and justified it to fit within the parameters of ARPA, kind of liberally and loosely. We just named a couple, we could have used it for things like addressing homelessness, infrastructure, which that could have and a lot of stuff. You just pointed out a couple examples like streets. Like I said, the language of it was pretty loose. They didn't throw on. We could have used those funds to fix storm drains, and it still fall under infrastructure and be covered by all the funds. one-time storm drain projects. Like the one on Eddie Drive could have been a one-time storm drain project. We could use it for economic development. I know that the majority of city council felt that going into a gift card project, or a gift card project with the gifty cards was a good way of doing economic development. I had a very big difference of opinion on that, of how we could have, what economic development could have looked like in our city, in my opinion. Better way that we could have encouraged economic development in our city using ARPA funds versus a gift card. Something like using money to staff time to create ordinances that make downtown Lemon Grove nicer. Something that capped the number of smoke shops or tattoo parlors or massage parlors that we have in the city. We could have used money from that to pay for staff time to create those ordinances that put process into place, enforceable things into place, so that our downtown isn't looking the way that it looks right now. We could have created and maintained a business improvement district to strengthen the business community, because it's something that our business district desperately needs. We could have used that money to hire a company, one-time thing, to hire a company to pressure wash sidewalks in downtown, empty trash cans, decorate downtown on a seasonal basis, for at least a year at that. Probably way longer. So, that said, I mean, ARPA funds could have been used for many, many things. That we chose, that the majority of council chose to use it on essentially City Hall. I think speaks to, like, council being tone deaf to what the community wants, because they don't care if City Hall doesn't look that nice or gets some spruced up. I think when we're looking at the issues that we have in the city, when we're trying to triage things, that's probably one of the last things that's on people's mind, on the public's mind. But what they do care about is how their downtown looks, because it affects them. It affects their ability to enjoy the city that they live in, that they pay taxes to live in. They can't go to their downtown because it's disgusting. It's unsafe, it's unsanitary. They can't take their kids out to eat at restaurants in our downtown area for those reasons. That affects them. They then have to drive other places. They have to be embarrassed of the city that they live in. They can't bring their guests who travel in from out of state or out of town. They can't bring them to their own downtown. They have to drive to La Mesa. They have to go everywhere else but where they live. That affects them. On that emotional level, affects their property values, which then affects the money that they can give to their families and how they can proceed in life, when they can retire, when they can enjoy their lives. So that we're choosing to allocate such a large amount of funds for essentially fixing ourselves, for fixing City Hall, fixing the firefighter station, which already got an engine worth over $1 million. I mean, it's so tone deaf. It's so insulting to the public and their needs and wants. More so their needs. They need the storm drains to be fixed. They need certain streets to be fixed. They need our homeless population to be something that's top of mind for the city, that we're having active discussions on how we're going to help our unsheltered neighbors and help the whole community, because we all suffer because of that. So, all that said, I'm quite positive that I had voted no on this allocation of funds. This is all, there's many things that I vote on, there's many things that we vote on as a council. I'm pretty sure I had an opinion on this back then, but I have an opinion now. I think it's foolish that we're spending all this money to on fire stations, city hall, this building. We can't suffer, I mean, we can't, it's not even suffering, we're totally fine. Meanwhile, we have literal holes on streets, broken storm drains, literally people's lives are in danger. And we can't sit in this building. We're fine. All that said, my vote is gonna reflect my disapproval and disagreement with how the council team chooses to use funds, the public's funds. And also want to point out one last thing. Our city auditors point out that there's so many problems with our accounting, with receipts on projects. There aren't receipts to justify expenditures on projects, and this is an over $1 million project. And we're putting all that responsibility for proper documentation on the city manager, when our city auditors say that that documentation that our city manager does is not adequate. And it's a red flag for problems. And I'm not to say that this is happening, but just as somebody who's in charge of looking over the financial health of our city, we're talking about millions of dollars, and there's very limited people at City Hall who have access to those limited dollars, one of those being the city manager, to oversee millions of dollars. And when we have auditors that are saying that our accounting of expenditures is lackluster and dangerous because of lack of documentation, and we're now putting more power in one of the very few individuals who has the power to oversee our millions of dollars, there's a problem. Like I said, I'm not saying that the city manager could be embezzling, could be making up multiple receipts for projects or making duplicate receipts, which is what the auditors were saying, that there's a lack of receipts. I'm just saying, as somebody, it's my fiduciary responsibility to make sure that our city is doing things on the up and up, have proper documentation for things. I have no confidence in wanting to give the city manager more authority over overseeing such a large ticket item, such a large project, because of what the auditor reports have said. So all that said, I mean, I hope that you folks will understand my vote when it comes time to voting, why it is. But those are concerns that I have, concerns over how our money is being managed and how expenditures are being documented by upper level city staff, to include the city manager. I have deep concerns, and it's because of what our auditors are saying to us in their reports. It's because of looking at the state of our city, how in terrible shape it is, and how things don't seem to reconcile. The money that we're using doesn't seem to reconcile. We use funds in a way that doesn't really seem to benefit the public's life. Yeah. So, I guess I'm nearing the end, and while you're here mocking me, I'm here literally speaking of how the public feels on how their money is not being used to directly impact their life. They do not care that this roof is getting fixed. They do care how downtown will look. They do care about the ordinances that we put into place or don't put into place to protect them, to make their lives better. So you can sit here, Councilmember Mendoza, and ridicule me for spilling my heart out about how the public feels, but you should probably consider
Councilmember
how the
Rivera,
public feels and how you vote and how you allocate their
your
funds.
comments, because we need to move on with this particular agenda item. If you have comments regarding this item, please state those. Otherwise, we will move on to the next council member.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that I have very articulately and very thoroughly explained how I feel about this agenda item.
Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much. Next, we have, before we move on, I'll turn it over to our city manager.
So Madam Mayor, I want to clarify, I used the former presentation I gave to the city council, And the ARPA categories is infrastructure, public sector revenue loss, essential workers, and economic recovery. We could not use this on pension fund deposits, nor debt service payments, which includes replenishing our reserve funds, or settlements or judgments. So those are the restrictions for the ARPA funds.
Thank you for providing that clarification. I want to stress here how important it is that we really stick to the city business and really speak to the items that are on the agenda. While we know that there are lots of challenges with the city of Lemon Grove, it is very important that we make careful decisions regarding how we manage the funding that we have, but also the ARPA funds that we have, which are one-time money. We will not get them again. And so using them in such a way that brings about the biggest impact is a priority. I will now turn this over to Councilmember Gaskell to ask the two questions and provide comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just have a few comments. I think that this is a really good proposal, and I think that these are in fact things that make a big difference to people in Lemon Grove. I mean, the roof in this building is 30 years old. The roof in the fire station is 30 years old. And when the city hall and the sheriff's substation, I don't know if people realize that they were flooded, okay? And when city hall and the fire station or the deputy sheriff's station, when they're affected, it affects what they're able to do for the rest of us. So it's like, parent should be concerned about their kids' health, but they also have to be concerned about their own health, as it affects what they're able to do for the whole family. And I think the people that work hard to protect us and to serve us, I think they should have decent places to work, and they should know that we're concerned when things could possibly go wrong, or they always have in case of flood. And the Lee House is a treasure, okay? I mean, the Lee House is one of the most special things in all of Lemon Grove, and I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. People visit the Lee House all, constantly. People want to have parties there. There, didn't you? Yeah, congratulations, by the way. So it's hard. There's limited money, and sometimes it's hard to say what's the most important thing. I think these are really good projects. I think these are projects that need to be done. They're projects that have a big impact on the city. And I also wanted to say that we get audited regularly, and our ratings are really good. The city gets praised by the auditors. It's true that the auditors will have suggestions or things they think we should do differently, like you should things in our procedures that they think we should do differently. But the auditors have been real clear that this is a city that spends its money carefully and that it counts for its money, and this is a city that serves the public. Having said all that, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the three recommendations.
Thank you. We have a motion, and I will now turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
I'll second the motion, but I wanted to make a comment. So, every year, when we approve this CIP project last year in our budget, every year we have a budget workshop. And at that budget workshop, we invite and tell us how they would like us to spend the money. And council members have input as well. However, last last year, during this budget process, Councilmember LeBaron didn't show up. She didn't say why she didn't come, she just didn't show up. And when we did have a budget meeting, or when we reviewed the proposed budget, it was very obvious that she hadn't even read the minutes from the meeting that she didn't show up to. She had no idea what we were talking about. So then she says, that she didn't vote against the budget. And she didn't ask for services for the homeless, and in fact, we approved spending money on storm drain repair. She opposed it. She did not want us to spend any money on storm drain repair. She wanted to spend all the money on streets, which is a very, worthwhile goal. But she didn't want us to spend the money on anything else. Those were her exact comments. I want to spend it all on the streets. Now, she did oppose this specific CIP project. She said all the same things that she said tonight, she said 6 months ago. And, but it is not irresponsible of this council to maintain the buildings, the citizens of Lemon Grove own. In fact, it would be irresponsible for us to ignore the condition that these old buildings are in and let them fall down and crumble. And if we did that, then the citizens should be pretty upset that we are not maintaining our buildings along with maintaining our streets and along with maintaining our sewer lines and storm drains. So, this isn't a want or wish or luxury to fix a roof. It's like putting new tires on your car. You have to do it if you want the car to work. So, I'm, second the motion, so.
Thank you. And we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna turn this over to our city attorney.
I just wanted to clarify the motion, make sure that we say it correctly. If Councilmember Gassel could, I believe that the proper language is on the slide up there. There were some numbers that were switched up. So if you could read it out loud, that would be great. That's correct. The slide is correct. But if you could read it into the record, thank you.
Okay, the motion is to adopt the resolution, it says one, authorizing an appropriation totaling $127,485 from unallocated American Rescue Plan Act funds. 2, awarding a contract number 2024-03 for the citywide roof replacement project to aid Preman Roofing Incorporated in the amount of $617,438, and 3, authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents.
Thank you so very much. And I'll keep it short, so that we can continue to move through our agenda. You know, right now is the opportunity to utilize this one-time funds that we received due to COVID to fix facilities that we would not otherwise be able to fix. And these facilities are in such a state that if it were raining right now as we speak, in certain spaces here, right here, you would see buckets. So, you know, the repairs are necessary, not only for this particular facility, but also for the fire station, city hall, the sheriff's station, and also the Lee House. I just know that every single dollar of that ARPA fund, and it truly is a blessing to this community, is being invested right back in the community. So I am pleased to know that we put lots of thought into making sure that this funding would bring about the biggest impact for the city. And I'm ready to support the motion that we have on the floor. I'll turn it over to our city clerk to call the roll.
Yes, the motion was made by Councilmember Gassil, to approve staff's recommendation with a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. Roll call vote, Councilmember Gastel,
Aye.
Councilmember Snow,
Aye.
Councilmember LeBaron,
Councilmember Barron, I share my opinion on how the public's money should be spent every meeting I attend. My position is well known to the public.
Councilmember LeBaron, yes or no? We're calling the roll.
I'm casting my
We will
vote.
move on if, she will not vote.
I'm about to,
Continue on.
ma'am, I'm about to vote. Jennifer Mendoza has spread lies on what I've said in the past. I absolutely support spending money on storm drains, and I vote no against this because it does not
Thank you.
use the money, the public's
Mayor
money
Pro Tem
in
Mendoza,
the best way
Aye.
possible.
Mayor Vasquez,
Aye.
motion carries on a vote of 4 to 1.
Thank you so very much. Item number 3 is the award of contract number 2024-14 for paving of Kemp Street from Golden Avenue to Broadway. I'll turn this over to Izzy Margia. But before I do, I want to take this opportunity to remind the elected leaders about disruptions and what disruptions are. We are here to do the business of the city, and so we ask that you respect the protocols that are into place, and that applies for each and every one of us sitting here. So, yelling and screaming in a way that upsets the public or the body, to the point of not being able to continue this meeting will not be tolerated. And excessive slander directed at any one person will not be tolerated. And threats of violence will not be tolerated here in the city council. So I wanted to remind everyone that there are protocols in place, and we all, including me, must follow the protocols. If we have someone here that cannot do that, then we'll have to take a recess or continue the meeting and or take other measures. So I'll turn this over to Izzy Morgia to go ahead and present the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is a recommendation to award a contract number 2024-14 to Eagle Paving Company Incorporated, DBA Toro Engineering for the repaving of Kemp Street from Golden Avenue to Broadway. Slide, please. As way of background, if the City Council recalls, back late in the 2023, the city was experiencing issues, timing issues with the traffic intersection, the traffic signals in particular, of Broadway and Grove Street and Broadway and Kemp Street. Both those two traffic signals are incorporated and managed by one traffic controller. Due to the ongoing timing issues with that traffic intersection, staff had placed that traffic, both those traffic intersections on flash late in 2023. The result of the issues with that traffic intersection was due to a detector lead cable, which is essentially the conduit that receives information from all the vehicle detection loops on Grove Street, Broadway, and Kemp Street. All those, and there's vehicle detection loops in those various lanes. They all send data through the detector lead cable, which then transmits that to the traffic controller cabinet, and that traffic controller cabinet, specifically the controller itself, manages the timing on those traffic intersections. So on January 16, 2024, the City Council approved a purchase order with the city's traffic signal repair contractor, Southwest Signal. And the repair consisted of replacing approximately 342 feet of conduit and wiring from Broadway and Grove Street all the way to the corner of Broadway and Kemp. At that time, staff brief the council and on the ongoing issues with the traffic intersection. We had briefed the council that the traffic vehicle detection loops on Kemp Street needed to be repaired, but due to the pavement condition of Kemp Street, we could not move forward with repairs of the loops without repairing the pavement. Next slide, please. This slide here is just a summary of what the repairs consisted of that the council authorized. The red line that you see down at the bottom of the screen is the detector lead cable. The yellow illustrations the yellow circles are vehicle detection loops. All the vehicle detection loops are integrated and they all transmit, as I mentioned earlier, data to the DLC pull box, which then connects to the cabinet, which is located at the corner of Kemp Street and Broadway. Next slide, please. So those repairs were previously completed just a couple weeks ago. Phase 2 of this project is repairing the loops on Kemp Street, I call them loops, but they're vehicle detection on Kemp Street. So you see the yellow circles on the northbound lane on Kemp Street. And those are also tied into the traffic controller cabinet on Kemp Street. The vehicle detection loops, for lack of better words, are essentially wiring. Kemp Street, as you know, and anybody knows who's driven that, is in disrepair. That the loops or the wiring of the vehicle detection loops are exposed, and vehicle detection loops need to be embedded in asphalt. We can't replace them, and so because we can't replace the vehicle detection, the traffic signals won't operate effectively or how they're designed to operate. Next slide, please. And so what staff is recommending is grinding Kemp Street from Bolden Avenue to Broadway 4 inches and replacing it with 4 inches of asphalt concrete pavement. Project includes striping and signage, traffic control, and some ancillary improvements. I'd like to make a note that our normal street improvements or replacements call for a 2-inch grind and overlay. This project consists of a 4-inch grind and overlay. So we're going deeper than we normally would. That just signifies how bad this road is, this section of road. So, in accordance with Municipal Code Section 3.24120, which is essentially outlines the city's informal bidding procedures, the city obtained informal quotes from several contractors and received responses on April 10th, with the lowest responsive bidder being Eagle Paving Company at $125,575. Next slide, please. This exhibit here, it's difficult to see on the screen, but as you can note in your agenda materials, essentially represents an overview of the improvements. So not only is the pavement being replaced, again, beyond what our normal standards would be, but this area will also see striping improvements and signage improvements that relate to the school crossing and any additional signage that adheres to the manual uniform traffic code. Next slide, please. With that, staff is recommending that the council adopt a resolution awarding a contract for the repaving of Kemp Street from Bowman Avenue to Broadway to Eagle Paving Company Incorporated, EVA Toro Engineering, in the amount of $125,575.26, and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents. And before I conclude, again, once when the section is repaved, the loops can then be embedded in the asphalt and tied to the traffic controller, so that vehicles going northbound would be able to be detected, sending a signal to the traffic intersection to have the light turn green. Without this repair, this traffic intersection would default to a constant recall. And so what essentially will happen is you might have vehicles queued up on Kemp Street waiting to turn left on Broadway. There may be no vehicles on either side of Broadway, but you won't get a green light because the traffic controller is not detecting any vehicles. And so we will continue to see significant queuing and significant timing issues with this traffic signal without the repairs. So with that concludes that presentation, and I'll have to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll check with our city clerk to see if we have any speaker slips.
Madam Mayor, I have no speaker slips for this item.
Thank you. And we'll start with our council members. We have 2 questions in the first round and a second round of questions, and you can provide comments. Please provide all of your comments during that second round. And I'll start with Councilmember Smith.
So one of the issues is we have like right across the street from there will be a new building complex with a lot of people living in there. So I think it's going to be really critical to manage the traffic and make sure that this is something that goes in pretty quickly. How long do you think it will take to do these repairs and maintenance?
So pretty quickly, I would say within 4 to 6 weeks. We spoke with the contractor today, and they're prepping for obtaining their bond, subject council's approval tonight. That will take 3 days to get, and they'll return the contract. And I think they mentioned they have availability at the end of the month to begin the repairs that we did on Thursday.
And then I'm really curious, because idling causes a lot of damage to the climate, wastes a lot of people's time, and increases the likelihood that people get frustrated in the traffic accidents. So one of my goals is down Broadway to have those lights synchronized so that it's a smooth flow and that people aren't stopping and idling and damaging our environment, slowing everything down. Does this help us get to that goal of synchronization down that Broadway corridor?
Yes, it does. So as part of the repairs and bringing this traffic intersection back to full operation, we completely redid the timing of this intersection. So Broadway Grove and Kemp and Broadway are tied together, and so with that new timing sheet, we would expect that those two intersections would sync up effectively, and so the answer would be yes for those particular intersections, and then the next light essentially would be Lemon Grove Ave, Broadway, which has its own detection infrastructure capabilities. So our traffic intersections, we have 30 throughout the city, and we're primarily vehicle detection based, as opposed to video monitoring. And so as long as the loops are in good repair and all the other components of the traffic controller are working properly, that is a big component for effective and efficient sequencing.
Councilmember Rivera? I don't have any questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Gaston.
I have no questions.
Thank you, and Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
So this is both sides of the street, from Broadway all the way to Golden, and, talking about some median areas, or median also. You know, this is such an awkward section of the street, and, you get a lot of school children crossing the street, which is why we're able to hit, that Safe Walks to School grant. You know, we've done a lot of work to try to improve, this area. We used to, Kaiser, fuel zone money to, report at Golden. But it's still just such an awkward intersection. And part of it is because on the east side of in Golden, there's that kind of vacant, I think it's vacant property. And then it has a sidewalk that just kind of abruptly ends. And their property line doesn't line up with the, Chevron station, Arco, sorry, it used to be. It doesn't line up. So it is, I have walked along there before, and it's very awkward. Is there any chance of improving, this for pedestrians? Is anything that we're gonna do with this?
So as you mentioned that there is an empty lot on the corner of Kemp Street and Golden Avenue, and I believe there is a project that is being proposed. So that project, as part of its conditions of approval, would be subject to public improvements, and sidewalks would be one of them. And so at that time, when that project comes before council's consideration, there would be recommendations from staff as part of the conditions of approval to, improve or add sidewalks in around that area, specifically the frontage of that property.
Yeah, we've talked about that potential. Mayor Pro Tem, the other section is the gas station, and until the property owner redevelops that property or decides to give us the property to build a sidewalk, it's gonna remain that way. When there's more capacity and when the other project that Mr. Murdia talked about, we can approach the property owner to see if he'd be willing to allow some of his property to be trimmed to a sidewalk, for example, we did on Golden Avenue. We'd say, if you allow this, we will build it, and we'll be able to.
Yeah, so give them some incentive, like there's no driveways really, it's just really awkward.
And we can work on that while that project is being built, so we can have a good argument to make a nice continuous sidewalk.
And then, what part of the median? Whole median or just?
Yeah, essentially, it's the whole median. Essentially, it's just a coating that would go over the median. It's essentially like a slurry. The last thing we want is a new road, new striping, signage, and you'll have that median stick out like a sore thumb. And so, staff's recommending using this opportunity to improve that median so that that section of roadway looks cohesive. And relatively, I mean, the cost to do that is relatively inexpensive.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I do not have any questions at this time, so I will start with Councilmember Snow for 2 questions and comments and a possible motion.
On the bidding summary page, we had 3 bids that we were considering. Other than the factor that the one we selected is the least expensive, can you discuss some of the other factors into making the selection of Eagle Paving Company?
Yeah, so when we look at selecting a contractor, we want to make sure that they're responsible. And so we look at their state contractor's license to make sure it's current, to make sure that there isn't any violations with the Department of Industrial Relations, which there is none, that their bonding capacity is up to date, and their sureties meets our requirements, which they do. We also look at historical project experience, and we've had a couple projects in the past 2 years with Eagle Paving. So Crane Street, which we completed last year, they were the contractor for that project. They were the contractor that completed Buena Vista just a couple weeks ago. And they also completed the section of Federal that experienced that pavement damage due to the storm. So they have been very responsive and good to work with. And so, in addition to being the lowest bid, we haven't had any contractual issues with the contract.
All right, well, I think that this project is a necessary improvement to keep the traffic flow moving downtown, to businesses, school children, the new people that are moving into the new community, apartment building that's been built there. And so I think it's a critical need. I'm glad it's timely and that we're getting this done on a relatively timeline. And so I'm happy to recommend adopting a resolution awarding the contract for repaving of Kemp Street from Golden Avenue to Broadway to Eagle Paving Company, Inc., DBA Toro Engineering, in the amount of $125,575.26, and authorize the city manager to do any necessary documents.
Thank you so much for the motion. Councilmember LeBaron stepped away, so I will move on to Councilmember Gasol.
I'd like to second the motion, and my comment is that this is a very busy intersection, and I think it's probably not the worst intersection we have, but it's definitely not the best. I think people would pretty much agree to need some work, and I appreciate the efforts, and I also appreciate Councilmember Mendoza mentioning that we want to make the area more walkable when we get the chance. So I'm happy to second the motion.
I will have a motion and a second. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. And I do not have any comments at this time. And so, with the motion and the second, I will ask our city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Snow,
Aye.
Councilmember Gasol, Aye. Councilmember LeBaron, absent. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Macias.
Aye.
Motion carries on a vote of 4-1 to approve staff's recommendation.
Thank you so very much. Item number 1G was added to the end of our agenda tonight, which is the 9th Amendment to the agreement for administration of taxi cab and other for hire vehicle regulations between San Diego Metropolitan Transit System and the city of Loomis Road. Councilmember LeBaron asked us to take this off of the consent calendar, and is supported by Councilmember Gastil. As she's not here at the platform, I'll just turn it over to Councilmember Gastil real quick.
Well, I seconded it because, Councilmember Mendoza and I serve on MTS, and, you know, if there are concerns, about the taxis and their relationship to Lemon Grove, we should make sure that we're hearing this. Councilmember LeBaron is back, so she probably could say what she wanted to discuss.
I thank you so very much, and Councilmember LeBaron has returned. I will turn this over to you so that you can ask the 2 questions of staff. Councilmember LeBaron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Did staff already do a little presentation on this action?
Councilmember LeBaron, staff did not do a presentation. Item 1G, the language was read into the record, and since it is full, you may ask your questions of staff. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, staff. Can you elaborate on item 1G, what it means, what it looks like? It's the amendment to agreement for administration of a taxi cab and other for hire vehicle regulations between San Diego MTS and the city of Loomis Grove.
Yes, what we're asking MTS to do is to take over the regulatory aspects of taxi cabs. We don't have the staff to do it. In fact, they do 10 other jurisdictions, and they, as described in the staff report, they ensure that the vehicles for hire or taxi cabs includes they've undergone a safety inspection, which is the vehicle has liability insurance, they are permit holders, which means they have a business license, fingerprints, all of the regulations to comply with the code. Under section 120050, chapter 2, division 11 of the Public Utilities Code. Taxis are regulated under that code. MTS is the one that administers that regulations, and this agreement has existed with MTS since 1990.
Okay, another question. So for hire vehicle regulations, I think like Lyft and Uber.
Lyft and Uber is not regulated by the Public Utilities Commission.
Okay, thank you, that's it.
Thank you so much, and Councilmember Gaston, do you have any further comments?
No, I'm gonna move that we go ahead and pass item 1G.
We have a motion and a second. I'll ask our city clerk to, I believe, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza wanted to provide some comments. Okay, because that's like you motion, okay. So then we have a motion and we have a second, and I'll just check. So, the motion was from Councilmember LeBaron, and it was seconded by.
That's
So, okay, so
that we can
the
capture things accurately on the record.
motion was provided by
Right.
Councilmember Gaston, and it was seconded by Councilmember LeBaron.
Yes.
And so I'll ask our our city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Gastel, the motion on the floor is to approve staff's recommendation, is that correct? Councilmember Rivera,
Yeah. Yes.
Councilmember Snow,
Aye.
Councilmember Gastel,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Vasquez,
Aye.
motion carries on a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. A council member meeting and reports. This section of the meeting is dedicated to the oral reports from the city council about meetings attended at the expense of the city. The report should be a brief summary of the meetings attended in your capacity as a city official. As a reminder, we want to be careful to keep these comments brief and to stay within the boundaries of the Brown Act. This includes matters that are not on the agenda tonight. And I'll start with Council Member Snow. Just know that you will have